Hi, Izzy.
Hello, hi.
Hello. How are you?
Hey, Izzy. Love
Hello,
ya.
hi. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Good afternoon. Okay, so this is it. Pretty simple, really, in that sense. There's nothing to get out of this, nothing to realize, nothing to recognize, nothing to notice. Nothing has to die or fall away or collapse or become boundless. In fact, nothing could die, fall away, collapse, or become boundless, because the suggestion here, the suggestion which comes out of nothing and by or from no one, is that this is everything already. So in this sense, all there is already is boundlessness, you could say. So this meaning sitting on Zoom, apparently sitting on Zoom, breathing, talking, laughing, feeling happy, feeling sad, is just what appears to be happening. And it's complete whole, exactly as it is. So nothing could be added, nothing could be taken away for this to become more whole and complete, so to speak, to become more of what it is. But of course, within this, as part of this, you could say, as this, there seems to be this apparent experience that I am an individual, that I am someone, I have a life, and that I am currently sitting on Zoom, talking or listening to Izzy. So of course, there is nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with anything. This is, again, just what appears to be happening. But the suggestion here is that this idea that I am sitting on Zoom is an illusion, because there just is no one who could possibly do this. Totally impossible. It's just a total dream in this sense. And this apparent dream can seem to collapse, you could say, for no reason at all. And that apparent collapse, of course, doesn't actually happen, because there is no dream in the first place. So yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. I mean, there's nothing to say, actually. There is no message. So what appears to happen is just we seem to talk on a Zoom call, and there can be questions and apparent responses, and anything and anyone is welcome. So yeah, let's see what comes up this evening, or wherever, this morning, this afternoon.
Hey, Izzy.
Hello.
Just, do you feel that I know this thing that can't happen and that won't happen because there's nobody there for it to happen to, won't happen at any time for anyone because of any process, but there is a sense that, you know, if you're following a spiritual path or a process, or that you're surrounded by particularly this message and those, you know, like Andreas, Frank, or yeah, all of them, Tony, you know, Jim, it's like all of you, that there is something that gets through. And I mean that, you know, it doesn't make sense, but at some level, there's something happening, apparently, that leaves an impression and over time seems to have an effect. And I know that can't make any sense, and I'm not looking for sense, but do you feel that at any level?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It doesn't make none of it makes any sense in that way. But of course, there can seem to be this resonance, you could say. And that seems to be a nice word, and totally energetic in this sense, in terms of, I mean, I've described it before as sort of just like an unconditional yes from no one. Yeah. That just sort of seems to hear this type of communication, you could say, and just sort of, I mean, I don't know, relax, that seeking energy can seem to relax or seem to resonate with what's being said, often in ways that even the apparent person just can't, as you say, just can't make sense of or understand. Yeah, so totally that, I mean, but of course that's just what appears to be happening. It doesn't indicate, so to speak, that anyone is closer to falling away, of course.
No. I mean, in some of the experiences that I've had, there's more recently, there's a sense of, rather than there being a tension that's noticed in the body, and then there's a desire to relax that tension, that there's a sudden and very periodic sort of moment of, oh, there's no tension in the body. It's like there's a relaxation that's happened, rather than there's been, you know, you know, there's often a necessity to, oh, I'm tense, you know, or I can feel the, you know, that whatever thought energy has left the tension in the body. So that's gone and been replaced with this kind of, oh, there's nothing there now, which is really quite pleasant, obviously. And also, what confounds me over and over again is you have these moments of death or feel like dying, and then realizes there's a real me dying here. And, you know, this whole body goes, you know, the heart goes wild, and you think, oh, and I think I've had that about 5 times. And each time I've come back into this. I've rejoined the illusion, you know, not the human race, but the illusion race. I've rejoined it. What the hell am I doing? But at the same time, I'm, you know, there's also a kind of, so what? It's, you know, so what? I can't do anything about it. So I'm kind of, yeah, do you know what? I don't care anymore. It's just.
Well, maybe it will be 6th time lucky, who knows?
Yeah, the 6th event, an illusory, I can't even say it. Yeah, illusory event will be the final one. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, the person seems to survive these so-called glimpses, you could say, and with each, I mean, this is a total story, of course, but with each knock, the person seems to be a bit more shaken. You know, these sort of apparent layers that the person thought it had seem to be ripped away each time, perhaps. But then sometimes can even seem to appear to come back stronger, it seems, you know, as the person sort of tries to hold on to its personhood in this way. And then obviously seems to then chase this experience. I mean, this sort of, you could say this apparent death is almost, it could be said to be the death of the idea that anything has to happen. So in the sense, this apparent death, of course, isn't another happening.
No, yeah.
It's this apparent total collapse of even the idea that something could or needs to happen, which of course seems to be the person, the setup of the apparent person.
Yeah. I remember sitting with a couple of friends one weekend, and Klaus and his partner at the time, she'd had a journey through non-duality, and so we were able to talk about various things. And Klaus was stuck on this particular idea, and we were both all day long, in fact all weekend, was going, yeah, but look at it this way. And it was all obviously quite conceptually, you know, like Neo Advaita. And then at the end of the weekend he goes, oh, I know what you're saying. And we were like, yeah. But they, the moment they left, I sat down on the end of my sofa bed and a big sigh of relief after a really wonderful weekend. And I suddenly realized that I didn't exist. We just sat there going, what? And then, of course, you smile at it and it's, oh, and then it's back to being a, look what I just did, which
Yeah,
is
exactly.
equally wonderful, but yeah, frustrating at some level.
Of course, it seems to be both. These, I mean, for me as well, these apparent glimpses or awakenings were, like you say, they were quite exhilarating and quite exciting, but then quite quickly frustrating and painful because I was still there and all this, and you know, very annoying in that sense. But yeah, I mean, this sort of apparent message, this communication, it can just be totally obvious all of a sudden. I mean, I think the person seems to think it's sort of this apparent death is going to be this sort of I don't know, you know, all bells and whistles, the lights open and the angels come in and all these sort of things. And I mean, just totally ordinary in this sense. It can just be totally obvious all of a sudden that, yeah, it's just this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to chat.
Hi, Izzy.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you. So there is this sensation, those days arising, like like it's like this kind of scary, like
Spit it out!
not to want it to reach the state like this, like this, because it feels like there is a specialness which is going to be missed then. Like it feels so normal in a way. And that was also, I think, the point after a few glimpses, like, so then what? It's just, can be just this, you know, in a way. I don't know if I'm able to explain myself.
Yeah, I mean, of course, in this sense, I think I sort of understand what you're saying. Maybe in this sense, me, or the parent me, is always this sense of, I mean, itself, it feels to be special, it seems, and so it then creates all these stories about so-called life and the so-called world, about how even this apparent message is something special, that sort of you know, this is the real truth. You know, I've been looking all my life and sort of gone through all these spiritual teachings, and finally I found this, you know, apparently uncompromising so-called message. So this, oh, thank goodness I found this. This is it. Izzy is talking about what I'm looking for. And I mean, of course, there is just no message to any of this. So this whole sense of specialness, like you say, this seems to then be seen, apparently, of course, by no one. This can seem very, you could say, disappointing for the person, because, or sort of quite, well, confronting and scary, you could say, as you say, because it can, the total apparent ordinariness of this is, you could say, quite striking. Of course, it's not for anyone, but when the apparent person seems to sort of realize, you could say, or no one realizes that this really is it, that there's nothing more special or spiritual or nowhere better to be. Yeah, that can seem quite threatening in a way. You know, how could it just be sitting on Zoom?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's sad in a way, and also like there is a kind of a smile arising from inside. Like you just like, can I really relax?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, totally. This apparent, well, really, the apparent person is this constant tension in that sense. It seems this constant seeking for something other than just sitting on Zoom, breathing and talking. So, as you say, it's sort of this kind of seems to be this push and pull for the person, because in one way it seems to be longing for it just to be sitting on Zoom, and as you say, like oh, thank goodness there's nothing else to look for. But at the same time, of course, the whole setup of the person is this apparent looking, so it sort of seems to freak out, you could say, that it is just sitting on Zoom, because then it's like, well, what is there to look for? So it's this apparent dilemma, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Izzy.
Hello.
I just recently discovered you, and I listened to your last video, and I loved it so much. Especially where you were talking about this, that well, there's really no dropping away. There's no death or anything. It's already non-existent. And it
Yeah,
just, I don't know, it just struck a chord here, very deep. So yeah, I just wanted to talk with you about that. How it seems that this mind or thought created sense of self seems to constantly cover that up in numerous ways all the time, and then it can just stop.
exactly. Apparently stop. Exactly. To be revealed in that sense that it never began. It was just never there.
Yeah.
And that's, you could say, the total surprise in that sense is that, you know, if I'm sort of asked, well, surely it was, surely you look back and there was something there. No, it just was never there. Totally never there.
So is that like it's in the obviousness when no, again I say, when that is seen, it's that, and again it comes to sound like this is a happening still. It's not, it doesn't matter how I ask this question, it comes down to, it has to be some kind of happening. And that was what struck a chord here, that you exactly said, that it was no happening. It was just obvious that it's never there. It's yeah. But of course the the me is obviously not capable of grasping that, because it puts everything into understanding and grasping and so on. Yeah, just wanted to say hi and thank you so much for doing this. It's so beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Okay, something in the chat. Jesus talked about forgiveness. Do we have the capacity to forgive others? Well, I mean, this question already assumes there is another, of course. So, I mean, in a sense, well, there obviously just is no answer to that. And of course, apparent forgiveness may happen in this sense, you know, whatever situation, of course, just totally normal in that way. But there just is no other, totally, completely no other. Of course, there just is no one, so there couldn't be. So this idea of sort of having to forgive others, or I mean, I'm not too familiar with the sort of Christian scriptures, let's say, but this idea of forgiving others to sort of make better your own sins, or whatever. I mean, this whole setup just completely collapses, because there's no one who could forgive, or no one to forgive in that sense. So, I mean, of course, forgiveness happens in this way, but this whole sort of idea of this deep sense of forgiveness, to sort of have to really dig deep and look at the, you know, the shadow parts of oneself, and forgive all the wrongs. I mean, this whole setup just totally collapses. Forgiveness just seems more to be sort of, I don't know, you cut someone up when you're driving and you just apologize. Like, just this sort of whole depth just sort of collapses in that sense. Not that I cut people up often. I'm not talking personally, but well, who knows? Or if I do, maybe I don't apologize.
Hi, Izzy.
Hello.
Do memories feel random? Like memory seemingly wouldn't have anybody at the center of it. It would just pop up out of nowhere. Does it feel random there? Or does it feel like it has an intentionality why I'm remembering something?
Oh, no, in this sense, no, there's no why. And there's this whole sort of level of, I mean, memories just appear, as you say, to no one, but they don't feel anything. So I can't say they feel random or that they feel structured. I mean, they're just memories in this sense, totally normal. But there's just no one experiencing them, and no one even analyzing them in this way. So you know, this sort of type of inquiry with memories and all this. So yeah, there can be apparent memories, but that whole thing with memory actually just seems to lose its importance, you could say, in this way. Because this whole sort of timeline that the person seems to live in, with sort of remembering what it's done the day before, so it can then sort of have its perspective on this moment, so to speak, or have a or be able to put what appears to be happening in context. Okay, I saw them last week, so then I'll you know, how did I come across last week? I know where I stand with this person now, or this situation. So yeah, this whole setup seems to just, memories just appear, but they're not no importance to them in this way.
Do they feel contrasted to the fact that this isn't a memory? That we're all sitting here and we can't remember this?
Well, not in this sense, no, because an apparent memory would, of course, just be also what appears to be happening. So there would be no difference between a memory of last week's meeting and an apparent sitting on Zoom for this week's meeting, so to speak. Both are just what appears to be happening, but there's no sense of last week being in the past and this week happening now. This whole sense of time just collapses in this sense.
Sweet, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more in the chat. Hi Izzy, do you have dreams as before when you sleep? Of course, totally normal. I just don't have them. But yeah, dreams happen. Of course, yeah. Totally normal. What this appears to be suggesting is that just this is already it. With dreams, with nightmares, with deep sleep, with so-called waking. Just already this for no one.
Hello, Izzy.
Hello.
So this is not about understanding, but an energetic shift that can happen or not. But either way, it's okay, maybe, no?
Well, I mean, well, this appears to be, I mean, this isn't about anything really in that sense.
Yeah.
Well, totally. So this isn't even pointing to anything, one could say. But I mean, of course, what this is suggesting is that this is already boundlessness in this sense. So, of course, there can seem to be this apparent energetic shift, one could say. But the funny thing is that this apparent shift, it sort of revealed, you could say, that there was only ever boundlessness.
Exactly.
So one can't say that it moves from contraction to boundlessness, because the funny thing is that it's seen in the end, so to speak.
Yes.
But there was never an actual contraction.
Yes, 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 yes. But sometimes you want to say thank you, but you don't know to whom you say that, you know? It's just beautiful.
Aw.
For no one.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you, Izzy. You are beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is unspeakably awesome and amazing how everything can be happening even without us. I mean, in this sense, one could say so, but obviously for what is, you could say, or what is, this sort of amazement and awesomeness, and this sense of sort of being special, like we sort of alluded to earlier. Of course, this seems to still come from someone, but of course, in this sense, yeah, I mean, you could use the word awesome in the sense of the absolute awesomeness in that sense. But of course, there's no one who finds this amazing. So what is just is what it is. It doesn't even know itself in this sense. So of course it doesn't find itself amazing or beautiful or stunning or whatever. And of course, you know, these words can be used. There's nothing wrong with that. But and it's just totally blindly, innocently, perfectly itself. And as you say, for no one already. In the chat, is this infinite being? One could say so, of course, yeah. I don't tend to use this word being, but yeah, you could say that in the sense this is everything. Which if you wanted to call being, yeah, sure. I mean, the words in this sense really don't matter. It's nothing. So, I mean, no word could possibly encapsulate this. What sitting on Zoom, breathing, talking, looking apparently is. Being, nothing, everything. I mean, life, no words.
Hi again, Izzy.
Hello.
Isn't it like it's I mean, every word is a description. No matter what the word is, it's always some, yeah, I don't know. It's always seems like it's a description of trying to point to or reveal or explain, or but is it like it's it's there and it's not there, like instantaneously. Is it like that?
One could say so in the sense of it's not real, but it's not unreal. So in this sense, you could say it's there and it's not there in that sense. But of course, I mean, words in this way are just words. They're just apparent words, just totally empty of any meaning, any purpose, any direction. So, you know, sometimes it can be said that this apparent meeting or this apparent message is pointing to something. But of course, that immediately sets up this idea that, as you say, these words are sort of suggesting something, and that there is really something beyond the words or that I am describing. But in this way, you could say that the words are and are not this, in the sense that everything is and is not this. So the words really aren't pointing to anything. You could say it's this wording or appearing as words.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more in the chat. Do you feel that anxiety and depression is natural, or would you say it is only the me fighting for its survival? I mean, everything is natural in this sense, you could say. There is nothing that is unnatural. So all there is the natural reality, so to speak. So apparent anxiety and depression is just apparent anxiety and depression already happening to no one. And of course, it's totally impossible to say that this is the me that causes this anxiety or depression, because there just is no me. So in terms of this sort of apparent cause and effect of, well, there is a me and that's why this body feels anxious, I mean, that just cannot be said, because there just is no one. So apparent anxiety and depression is what appears to happen for no one, and already, and as a story, of course, you could say there seems to be this additional artificial layer of anxiety or rumination or commentary that seems to be added onto what appears to be happening, you could say, which is totally artificial. And of course, when that seems to collapse, apparently collapse, the body may seem less anxious or less depressed in that way. Because a lot of the stories with things like this seem to revolve around me. So in that sense, with the question, you could say yes, with a lot of these anxious sort of ideas or depressing thoughts seem to be related to me. And so when that whole setup seems to collapse, a lot of these anxieties or depressive thoughts just seem to fade or not just be a thing anymore. There's just no one who is anxious or depressed. There's just absolutely nothing wrong with apparent anxiety or depression. Just already happening for no one.
It seems this story, Izzy, has so much value. And once there was a collapse in the middle of a crisis. And all of a sudden, all the people in the room, all the steam ran out of it. Like all the important story, the crisis that was going on, it just didn't mean anything. It was like a switch immediately turned off. Unfortunately, it turned back on again. For that day, the crisis, like the people's voices seemed, they didn't have any more value than notes on a piano playing. Like they didn't even have a location.
Exactly, totally.
Okay. So then there's holes forever now in the fabric, even though the switch is back on.
Exactly. In that sense, the person seems to survive these apparent glimpses, but nothing seems the same in that way for the person. It can never seem to go on believing its own make-believe in that way.
Yeah. That's why I said in your chat, a swift sword.
So it seems, yeah.
Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
In the chat, this imagines a universe and all therein. Well, you could say this appears as the universe and all therein, in this sense of there is no this that sort of imagines anything. So this sort of idea, my impression with this idea is that this sort of implies there's almost a source or a God or a universe or a this that then imagines sitting on Zoom talking. So there is no other big everything or big whatever ultimate that then imagines this thing or whatever appears to be happening, or imagines something into manifestation. So no, there's just nothing deeper or behind this so-called appearance. In that sense, one could say that this appears as the universe, the apparent universe, and everything apparently in it, in that sense, of course. But there just is nothing or no one imagining or creating or manifesting, sitting on Zoom, talking to Izzy. Just plain and simply sitting on Zoom, talking to Izzy, apparently. Just what appears to be happening. Totally uncaused in this sense, of course. There's no cause.
And there's no proof either.
Exactly. Totally no proof. Totally no proof. Because there is no one who could prove this either way. So hence this sort of real and unreal in this way, because there is just no one who could prove or who could confirm that sitting on Zoom is happening or that it isn't happening. So it's just what seems to be happening. It's just impossible to say either way, whether it is or whether it isn't.
It is real and unreal in a sense.
Exactly. And the person just obviously, the apparent person just cannot literally grasp this. It has to be real or it has to be unreal. It can't be both.
Yes. It's very simple, actually. It's very simple and ordinary.
Oh, totally. In that sense, totally ordinary, totally normal.
Yes. I like Tony Parsons when he says, it's nothing apparently happening. He always say, he always repeating that for every question. It's nothing apparently happening. Very simple.
Exactly. I mean, it's just, it just is what it is. So yeah, I mean, of course, you could say simple, ordinary, just totally normal in terms of what the person seems to have of all these high or spiritual ideas of this. But it just is what it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And almost too easy for the person, it seems, in this way. I mean, this is going into the story, you could say, but the person is creating these problems, which there's nothing wrong with. It's just what appears to be happening. But the suggestion, the apparent suggestion, is that there just is no problem with anything.
Izzy,
Hi.
have you got any tips for my hair? I really like yours. I'm just, I'm sat here thinking, is there anything I can do that would
I can't magic that back, I'm afraid.
Oh, no. No. That's it. I'm going. Only came here for the bet.
That really is the end of hope. So in the chat, could what is ever end? Well, of course, what is this never begins. So no, it could never end. There is no beginning and there is no end. There is no birth, there is no death. So this idea already, you could say, comes from, or seems to come from the thing that seems to feel it has been born, or that it has began. So no, totally, I mean, all these ideas of infinite timelessness, like whatever, but no, of course not. There is no end to sitting on Zoom with me.
We're still waiting for it to begin, Izzy.
Exactly.
Hi, Izzy.
Hello.
In the traditional terms, we can call also this energy God, because God also is unknown. Nobody's knowing what he's talking about when he said God, or energy or whatever. It points to the same thing. The unknown apparently happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One could say that God is appearing as everything in that sense, or what appears is God. So of course there's no actual God that appears as everything. So God, so-called God, to use this term, appears as everything, is everything in that sense. God appearing as sitting on Zoom.
Amazing.
Exactly. You could say God appearing as anything. I probably won't repeat that for the YouTube. But of course, this idea that there is a God and then an appearance, I mean, in this sense, it's simultaneous in this way, of course. God zooming, one could say. But what tends or seems to happen with these traditional religions is there then appears to be an actual God, a higher power, a man, a deity, I mean, whatever, that is separate from what appears to be happening. Okay, well, this is wholeness. This is everything. Sitting on Zoom, having a chat, laughing, talking is all there is. There is nothing else. There's nothing deeper to this. There's no hidden reality. And what is perfectly, completely, and blindly itself, already for no one. Nothing has to happen. Nothing could happen for this to be more whole and complete. So the next meeting is on Saturday, this Saturday at 11 a.m. British time. And in April coming up on the weekend of the 15th and the 16th, there is a Zoom intensive, which will be 4 hours a day, split into morning and afternoon sessions for the 2 days of the weekend. So the details are online, but if you want to come, you can just email me and I'll send you the link. But yeah, thank you for coming. Hope everyone has a lovely evening, morning, day, wherever you are. and might see some of you again.
Definitely.
Thank you, Izzy.
See you
Thank you.
later. Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, Izzy.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Love ya.
you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh.